dedicated to getting results. The I-Team.
Disgracing the dead. That's what several Jacksonville families are accusing a local cemetery owner of doing. They say they paid for a beautiful burial and got nothing but heartache. One had to watch this. Their loved one's grave had not even been dug when they arrived.
We're hearing heart-wrenching stories tonight from relatives who say the cemetery they trusted, Beaches Memorial Park, tried to rip them off and left them traumatized.
The I-Team has also learned the cemetery's license is expired. Investigator Jennifer Waugh uncovered these cemetery nightmares.
As soon as we started telling our viewers about this story related to this cemetery, the owner called us. He was not happy with the interview that we had already gotten with him and had asked for another opportunity to give his side of the story. We, of course, said yes and agreed to meet him this morning at 9:45 here at his office. Well, we were here, but he wasn't. We tried calling. Mr. Ray, and hi, this is Jennifer Waugh. Left messages. Turns out he called the station to tell us he had to reschedule because he had been called away. He had to remove a body for a burial. So he agreed to meet us at 1 o'clock. We came back, and again, he wasn't here. And again, we called. I want to give you every opportunity, obviously, to give your side of this story. And again, there was no answer, and we called 2 different numbers. These are the same kind of complaints that we have been receiving about this cemetery and about the owner. In fact, we spoke with one family who says they were on their way here to bury their loved one, and when they pulled in with the funeral procession, the gate was locked. What should have been a peaceful goodbye to Johnny Mae Jones turned into a fiasco for her family. Her grave had not been dug when they arrived at the cemetery in Atlantic Beach.
We've never in my life have encountered anything like this.
Celestine Jones says John Ray, an owner of Beaches Memorial Park, greeted them, delivering surprising news.
It had rained so much that the ground was too wet and that she would have to be buried in stages. So now, father-in-law, married for 62 years, has to come back again to relive his wife's death. Who wants to do that?
The family insisted the burial happen right then. As the bulldozer started digging, they couldn't believe what they saw.
This ground is not wet.
Jones shot this video on her cell phone.
This is the dirt. Now, this is what he was saying, where it was wet. And as you can see, this dirt is dry. It's very, very dry.
Now the family was suspicious, so they insisted on seeing the vault they bought to bury their 77-year-old mother's casket inside.
This vault has cracks in it. It's not what we ordered. It's supposed to be a sealed vault. This is an unsealed vault because it has holes in the bottom of it.
Do you think that he would have buried then your mom in a broken vault that wouldn't have even been sealed correctly?
Absolutely.
Jones and her husband say they think the cemetery owner was trying to rip off their family by using a damaged and chipped vault instead of buying a new one, and made up the story about wet ground to get rid of the family. How much money are we talking about did this cost, roughly?
It's either $5,200 to $5,500 because initially the price was $48,000, but by the time it got there to actually pay him, he increased the price more, going on and on about this closed vault that needed to be paid for.
A vault, they say, that didn't even have a lid to seal it.
This is where we are now, 2.5 hours after the service. It's unacceptable.
The family called police, and the owner finally agreed to entomb Johnny Mae Jones in the mausoleum. But it took more than 5 hours. They say a worker had to go to the hardware store to get the materials needed to do it. Her husband, so overcome with emotion, couldn't even stay and missed his final goodbye.
As I was telling him, I said, do you understand that you have to have some type of humility, some type of grace when it comes to dealing with people's family and their loved ones?
And what did he say? How did he respond to you saying that to him?
That's basically what he said.
No apology?
No, not once.
No sensitivity?
Not a small bit.
Horrific. If I had one word to sum it up, it would be horrific.
Pastor Eric Jackson says his family never received an apology either.
When we get there at 12:30, nothing is prepared. They're racing around. The gate is latched when we get there.
His Aunt Lilybell's burial also had been scheduled and paid for days in advance.
We had a copy of the contract with us, because it's clear as day. He wrote 12:30. He gave no excuse. Only thing he wanted us to do was put our mobile devices up and stop recording the actions that were going on.
It gets worse.
And as they were letting the casket down, he did not seal the casket, and the casket was coming open. And we kept sharing with him, hey, John, the casket is coming open. He was assuring us that it was not coming open.
Look closely. You can see right there in the middle of the casket, it is clearly open.
My concern, at that point is, had we not been there, would you have just dumped my relative in this vault, pulled out this casket, and used it on another one of your own services?
It's why Jackson insisted on staying until the bitter end, stunned again by what he noticed next.
It's 18 years of being around the funeral industry. I've never seen them pull dirt out of a hole and throw it on top of someone else's grave next to it. Their flowers, the vases, I've never seen that before. They would normally take this dirt, put it in a backhoe or whatever, place it in another part of the cemetery.
You can see flowers marking another person's grave buried under the dirt.
And that family, had they come out to see their loved one that afternoon, they would have been pretty upset.
To add insult to injury, Jackson says his family paid the cemetery to add the date of his aunt's death to her grave marker.
I went out the other day on Monday to take a picture to see if it had been done, and it still was not done a year later. No.
I'm Jennifer Waugh with Channel 4. We went to get some answers last Friday from John Rayan, owner of Beaches Memorial Park.
There are people who say that you have been very unprofessional and unethical in the way that you've handled their funerals and their burials. Is there anything you have to say about that?
No, I haven't been.
We followed him as he kept walking away, asking him about the Jones and Jackson burials.
Sir, do you have anything to say to these families? I mean, they're traumatized. Are you even apologetic? You are? Well, now's your opportunity to apologize.
I'm not going to be filmed.
You don't have anything to say to these families?
Yes, but I'm not going to be bombarded like that. It's very rude.
State investigators have been here to inspect just this week. What happened? They were here 2 days ago. You have no idea they were here?
I didn't speak with her.
Why didn't you speak with her?
Because it's not my department.
How do you explain this, though? You've had a number of complaints.
You're not going to do an interview. Please leave. Thank you.
So, Tom, while we were waiting for the owner to show up for our interviews, this man, his name is Charles Garrett. He came up to us because he wanted to talk to the owner, too. He told us about the fact that his wife of 64 years died back in November. And he took us to her gravesite, and you can see there is no marker there.
Oh,
he says he paid for the marker back in January. And it is still not there, and he's not getting any resolution to it. It's these kinds of complaints that we continue to hear about this cemetery. In fact, we also reached out to the state. These are the complaints that have been filed against that very cemetery. Look at how many there are.
Jen, at the very beginning of the story, we said that the cemetery license had expired.
Yes, and we contacted those state regulators when we got all of these complaints also, and all we can tell you at this point, and they can tell us, is that, well, it's business as usual. But we are going to continue to ask questions and get some answers, and we're not going to stop following this story until we do.
Jen, thank you.